Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, Don.
Hey, Dennis.
All right. Glad you can make it.
Back and going.
All right. Let me make you co-host because I love doing that. All right. So hopefully that worked.
Yep. Says I can share screen now. Oh, well, wait.
Fantastic. Yeah. Give us a couple of minutes here. Hey, everybody. How's everyone doing today?
Hi there. Good. Thank you.
All right. These flowers are not actually blooming in our yard, but I want them to.
It looks like it's
They're very large.
maybe
Yeah,
I
like
can
my
show.
head. Yeah. Yeah. They're I haven't learned how to make things the right size on my background. I just kind of put them up there, and I can tell you that fence needs painting.
Yeah, if I had to do it on, I had no problem. I mean, I got them. Just everybody just putting them on and off. You know?
I'm not hearing anybody. Can you guys hear me?
I can
Yeah,
hear
we
you.
can hear you. Yep.
I can hear you.
I'm gonna leave and come back.
Why? Nah, thank you.
All right.
Where's he at? Where's he at? Here, just got back to your show.
Chris, mute your microphone, Chris. Mute your microphone. Thank you.
Hey, Dennis, since you made me the master, it's got people in the waiting room. I'm supposed to let them in?
Yeah, I'll let him in.
All right.
Not doing a very good job of keeping up with that.
Well,
Sorry.
it's flashing a warning to me, I guess.
Yeah, they're like, run while you still can. Okay. Did I get everybody? Hopefully. All right.
Dennis, feel free to co-host me if you want me to manage the lobby.
Okay.
Hey, John, how's it going?
Hey, Brady, good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Sorry I missed the first session you had.
Well, you've been through it before.
Yeah,
It was,
a few times.
it was so good. John got sick for a week afterwards.
You doing better now though, John?
Oh, yeah, it passed quickly.
Glad to
No
hear that.
COVID.
That's good.
Yeah, we were worried he might have had the dreaded C word, but luckily it was just a plain old yucks, and it passed pretty quickly. Okay, well, Brady, keep an eye peeled if more people join, and I'm going to turn this over to John. First, just a couple of words. You may remember that we had the first version of this a couple of weeks ago, and it's called the Business Model Canvas. And we've talked about quite a bit of the things that actually are included in that. But one of the things that in my one-on-one meetings with everybody is what's really good about this tool. It also helps with what's called customer discovery, and that is figuring out who your customers are, maybe in addition to ones you've already identified, but you're thinking of more. And this tool can really help think through the process of adding new potential customers and kind of figuring out how all that works. So I just want to point that out. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Jedi Master himself, John Ciannamea, who will now guide us. Thanks, John.
Well, thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to share my screen, and I have a brief PowerPoint we'll use as a guide today. And can everybody see that? If I make it big?
Yes.
All right.
Oh, dear.
And did I go on?
Oh, no.
Oh, no, there it is, part two. Okay. And again, this is part two. It's a continuation. What we did on the February 18th session were the sections in the lean canvas in the white. And today we're going to go over the green sections. And before we get into those, I'll pause if there's any questions from last week, if anybody has any, and then we'll get into the new stuff. But are there any questions from the 18th session? If not, we'll continue then. Just to recap on the sequence, again, there's a recommended flow, but you don't have to do this. I think you can fill in as you think, maybe the easy ones, and just go back and adjust them. But the recommended sequence would be the problem first, the customer segments, the value proposition, solution, channels, the revenue streams, cost structure, metrics, and then unfair advantage. And for this discussion, I've been using 3 case studies or examples, and these were businesses that I was involved with in the past. And for those who weren't there for the other session, I'll just briefly describe each business. The scuba diver represents an underwater GPS company. And this was a company that would be developing devices that would aid in navigating underwater or marking and finding assets underwater. And it is a big problem. This was something that was going back to the 2000 timeframe. To be honest, I haven't kept up with the state of the art, but it was an issue that was not resolved in that timeframe. The middle item is a picture of a patent, and that was a service business, which I was a co-founder of. It was an intellectual property brokerage business. We helped companies monetize patents or other intellectual property. And the hot dog represents a retail business. I did spend time evaluating the acquisition of a hot dog business, which was being considered for franchising, at least with our team. So those will be the examples. We're going to use those as we go through the different parts of the lean canvas. The first section we're going to do today is the channels or the paths to your customers. And you want both inbound and outbound. So if we go back to the 3 examples of the businesses, in terms of the underwater GPS business, the channels would be first direct or partner to the military. Military is a very big market. In those days, again, for those that weren't there before, even the Navy SEALs did not have the sophistication with underwater GPS. It was basically a compass and some other means. Direct commercial, there are a number of businesses in locating underwater assets, whether they be wells or other resources, and even laying and repairing cables that are still underwater. And lastly, direct to distributors and dive shops. And these were the people serving the recreational divers. In the intellectual property brokerage business, the channels were email and telephones to sell its calls to sellers. It is a very simple process, but that's the easiest way to do it. And in terms of buyers, because we're in the middle of both, it was email and telephone calls to the buyers. In the hot dog business, the channels to customers was walk up or drive through customers. And then it also the restaurant had an indoor dining area. So it was walk-in diners. The next section, revenue streams. Again, this doesn't have to be complicated. You're really doing this at a high level, and you don't have to really get into deep modeling, but you want to list your sources of revenue. In terms of the underwater GPS business, in the military sector, it was basically the number of systems sold times the average dollars per systems. And the simplest way we were approaching it was the underwater Navy SEALs was the biggest application. So you could figure out number of systems, and we knew an average cost. For the commercial business, and generally these were going to be the large ships that would locate, put X on the bottom of the ocean floor where they're going to locate an oil well. Basically, again, a number of systems and the average cost per system. For the recreational dive market, this was going to be included within a dive watch, which was a common device used by divers. And it was the number of dive watches times the average sales price for those dive watches. And then there may be other peripherals involved that we had in mind. In the brokerage business, the revenue was very simple. It was the number of clients times percent close times the average commissions or dollars per transaction. And the hot dog business, also very simple, is the number of hot dogs times it's the number of diners times the average per diner, the average paid. And for the non-hot dogs, the number of diners times the average paid per meal. So you can see, again, it's a very simple approach. You don't have to get into deep modeling. On the cost structure, you really want to focus on the fixed and variable cost. And in the case of the underwater GPS business, our fixed costs were the rent or mortgage. We did have a rented facility, insurance, and there was certain equipment. The variable was really just how much in research and development, any labor for that, or business development and travel. For the brokerage business, the intellectual property brokerage business, the fixed cost was the rent. We did have a facility that was rented, the headquarters, even though we had people scattered around the country. We did have insurance. We did have computers for the individuals working. There's also certain software which we had licenses for. The variable cost was all labor. It was a scalable business where basically you could add people with a computer and we had all the systems to do it, but the variable cost was really the labor. In the hot dog business, which is a retail business, again, with a storefront, the fixed cost was a rent or mortgage for that location. There was general insurance. There's equipment such as the kitchen equipment, and refrigerators, all the things to support the cooking and storage of the food. And then the furniture, because there was a counter with tables and chairs, but traditional kind of diner furniture. The variable costs were the food supplies, the labor for the different shifts, and the utilities. Now, metrics, these are numbers or measures that are going to tell you how your business is doing as you progress. And for the underwater GPS business, we saw the metrics as the number of military systems sold as one metric, the number of commercial systems sold, and the number of recreational systems sold. Very simple approaches, but the bottom line is we had a limited number of products being sold, and those were the very simple measures. In the intellectual property brokerage businesses, again, you have to think of, in that business, it was more of a funnel in terms of number of sellers or licensors you signed up, because the more you signed up that had quality stuff, the more you're likely to sell things. The next metric was the percent of those that closed deals, and then the average commissions, because we had targets in terms of what the average commission should be per transaction. In the food business, the key metrics were the number of hot dogs sold, very simply, because we saw this as the signature product for that business. And if it were to be franchised, it was built around this unique hot dog, which had a certain flavor. The other metrics, number of hot dog customers and the number of other customers, maybe the other customers being just coming in for coffee or other meals. Unfair advantage is something that cannot be easily bought or copied. You know, what's going to set you apart? And in the underwater GPS business, we did have some seminal patents that had to do with doing the mesh network as well as the underwater GPS without having an antenna sticking out of the water. There was also a lot of know-how. The inventor had a unique background in that he had done networking development. When I say networking, going back to computer networks in the early days, as well as semiconductor knowledge. So he was a very talented electrical engineer. He was also an amateur scuba diver. So the combination of those were a unique advantage in terms of solving the problem in that market. In the intellectual property brokerage business, the team was a unique advantage. We had people who had worked with major companies such as IBM, Lenovo, Boeing, and had done large transactions and many diversified types transactions. So we had a team with a great network and also experience. We also had proprietary systems and processes which could set us apart, and the processes were scalable that allowed for easy ramp up in terms of going after certain sectors. The unfair advantage in the food business was the secret sauce, the chili. The hot dogs were bought from a German sausage maker, but there was no lock on that particular hot dog, but it really was the sauce and just the reputation of the one store. So the brand was also an unfair advantage. Everybody knew it within a certain radius. They knew of those hot dogs. So if you take all the items together, and I did this for each of the three different examples, I put all of the items in the lean canvas so you could see what it might look like. And again, it doesn't have to be complicated. It's something you can do quickly. You can update it from time to time. And as you learn more from your customers, you will update this. So you need to get out and talk to the customers and make sure that your business is addressing some problem and you have a unique value proposition or solution. But again, this is examples of what a lean canvas might look like in going through it. What's next? I recommend, and I'm sure Dennis would too, that you interview and collect more information. You just continually have to talk. Now, I understand some people are already in the market with products. Some are developing new products, but you need to always be interviewing and collecting more information. You will see that certain times there will be big hurdles, and those hurdles have to be dealt with, whether it is a prototype or some issue regarding the product. But those things can be dealt with, and this will help identify some of those. And lastly, discuss your plan with others. You could have board members, mentors, friends, but make sure to discuss your plan with others and get feedback. It is a living document. The plans morph over time. They have to be flexible, and that's the best way to approach it. That's the second part. It didn't take long, I realize that, but I will pause and take questions.
John, I'd like to really, I guess, as a question and a statement at the same time. One of the things that you'll start to hear about, I think, more and more, is the idea of a product market fit. When you're looking at expanding your business, whether you're a startup or you're wanting to expand something you're already doing, there has to be a fit between what it is that you're offering, the product or the service, and the market. The market has to be there. You have to see evidence that the folks will buy it at the price you want to sell it for. And so this process, this business model canvas, John, would you say that's a good way to explore that product market fit that I'm talking about?
Yes. I spent a lot of my early years in venture capital, and I saw many businesses that got started where there was a hunch by the founders that people would buy certain products, and they spent millions of dollars developing the product, and for whatever reason, certain other technologies were extended. They weren't able to get into the market, but yes, you need to do that early before you do all that investment and understand the customer needs. I agree.
Yeah, I think that the idea of product market fit really applies when another term that you'll hear a lot is a pivot. Sometimes people will start a business or a market, and find that maybe it isn't going quite as well as they expected, or they see another opportunity that they perceive as better, and they'll pivot to that other opportunity. And this is very common with startups, as many of you probably know. But all of this process is really intended to help you lower the risk of making a mistake from the point of view of putting time and money into something that doesn't really show promise. It doesn't show that the evidence that that it's going to be what you hoped it would be. So I think the thinking of this in terms of managing risk for yourself and your business is a good way to think of this business model canvas. You know, it's kind of, I consider it the new business plan, because I think the old-fashioned business plans don't make a lot of sense to me anymore. But this sort of approach, and we do have these documents on our website, the business model canvas, and access to the forms and so forth. But I do think that that this is a way to model out your business so that you can kind of see what's going to happen maybe before it happens, or get some insights that can help you. All right. Any other questions or thoughts on the business model canvas? Okay. Well, John, you win the award today for the shortest class. I know people will be applauding that, but I really appreciate you coming on and helping us get our arms around this. And I keep saying that these will all be available online, and Brady, I know, is either done it or will do it. So you'll be able to go back and see the first session again and combine it with this, and hopefully be able to figure out how to apply it to your particular situation.
Hey, Dennis.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Trying to talk, but I can't. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Sorry about that, Brady. I didn't mean to interrupt. And we can do this after.
Still can't hear you, though.
Being that we have
You're
some extra
frozen up
time,
on my side.
I've been working on. I plan on spending some time this afternoon our canvas model, and I'm just wondering if anyone else has spent any time on some of the early pieces of it, like their product positioning statement and things like that. I mean, it's a brief statement. I'm just curious as to what people have found, or if it's appropriate to share any of those brief statements and things we're making about our product positioning to give each other some help.
Yeah, I think several people have shared with me that they're working on that. Does anybody want to go public and say where they are with their statement? I've heard some pretty good ones.
Yeah, I can share. Dennis, I was
Okay.
supposed to send it to you anyways.
Okay.
So the statement that I had originally, which after these classes I've been rethinking if I should change it. It has been superior proteins, ethical practices, like as far as just like, hey, this is what we do, this is what we provide. But then I changed it and I was like, well, maybe I should add regenerative practices. But then when I ran that by my sister, she was like, that's confusing because not everyone knows what regenerative is. So now I'm stuck, but I really like superior proteins. I think I'm going to keep that. So Dennis, I haven't sent it to you yet because I'm still stuck. I'm trying to find a good word for regenerative because that's the type of farm that we are. But I don't want to confuse people. So maybe I'll just go back to what I had before. I don't know.
Well, I think, my reaction is, think about the customer as opposed to, anything else. So things like, we have the happiest protein around, right? That sounds crazy, but, and I'm not suggesting that be the solution, but that's an example of a very simple and easy to understand positioning statement. Why is your protein so happy, right? I don't know. But this sort of communicating a simple, value proposition or positioning statement, I think goes a long way. And you may have different positioning statements for different markets. For example, if you're selling, overseas or exporting, it may have a different position than you would in a in the local area or on your website. But my feeling is if you look at your competitors or even people that you look up to, go on the web and look and see what others are doing. And somebody like Joyce Farms page in your case, right? Somebody big who sells grass-fed beef, or even Karen Scalf in our group with her farm. I think take a look and see what people are doing, and start from the point of view of the person who is purchasing your product. What do you want to communicate to that person really quickly? And it's something you can change. But if you really think about it, in other consumer products, the quicker picker upper, right? Or all these various things that we've all grown up with, these various commercials where they have this tagline, we'll remember forever, and we can repeat it even today. So I think you think along those lines. I think you'll be on the right track for really people remembering. Anyone else want to share their positioning statement at this point, so I can ramble on and on about it?
And I had, I'll tell you from my experience, I kind of started down this path of 6 months ago talking about the no grunge plunge. And the idea was I got a plunger that's no grunge, and all that's catchy and it sounds cool with the hashtag and all that, but like people didn't get what that meant. It was confusing to them. And so then it was just talking to people saying, what does this mean to you? They didn't understand what it was. And so then I kind of shifted to the no drip, no rinse, no mess plunger. And that resonates with some people, but not everybody. The cleanest plunger ever made, that one kind of resonates with people. They realize, okay, I hate a dirty toilet plunger. And so I think it goes back to, like Dennis was saying, is you kind of got to experiment with it, and you have to talk to people about it. And I still don't have something that I really like that I think is great, but I think that's just part of the evolution. Because I can tell you 10 different features about my plunger that I think are great, and you want to squeeze them all into that positioning statement. But maybe it's better off to just do one or two of those really, really well. And I think it takes time and practice and interaction with your customers to really understand what resonates with them.
And 28 repetitions before anyone remembers.
Yeah.
When I listened to what you just said, and the last one you said, I think you said the cleanest plunger ever made, that lit me up. I was like, yeah, right. I get that, right? I could, what does this guy do? He makes the cleanest plunger ever made. So I like that kind of thing. And I kind of go based on my emotions, like how I react. If I'm nodding off or whatever, I just think it's too technical and too much detail, right? If it's something that zing, that's what I'm looking for in a positioning statement.
Right.
And that's just me. That doesn't mean that's the only way to go, but that's my feedback. Cleanest plunger ever made. Love it. Anyone else want to be raked over the coals?
Well, Dennis, I'll jump in.
Great.
I had the position statement of growing food and growing farmers or growing farms. Everyone wants to be growing some type of life, and growing food, putting that out there means that hopefully we're producing the best food there is, the best beef and pork. Okay. So I'm looking at always trying to condense that and make sure the message is the right message I want to give. I'm like Paige, regenerative agriculture is what we're all about, but the consumer doesn't really understand exactly what regenerative is, what it means, or even what it looks like.
Yeah. What does it mean?
It actually means that you're farming with nature, that your food is healthier, it's more nutrient dense, it's actually cheaper to produce, but it takes more time to produce it. And with a little bit of training, it's just it changes the health of your body. You're healthier, you can think better, you're more active, you just operate more the way you're supposed to.
So as a consumer, I kind of like distill all that, and this is to both you and Paige, is like I kind of distill that as, to me as a consumer, I would equate that to happy animals, which is,
yes,
which is like regenerative in nature, but without the industry lingo, speaking to the consumer's ears, what we hear is happy animals, which is what we want, right? Like
That's
we
right.
want the little pigs and the cows and everyone to be happy, right? And so maybe that's a layman's way to describe it.
Maybe happy animals, safe food, or
So-
healthier
something-
food.
Yeah, something plain, layman's terms that is the same thing, but translated to the consumer's ears.
I like that.
Yeah, I like happy. You know, words like that are people remember. And everybody wants to be happy, and so I think there's a lot to that. And you know, don't hesitate to reach out to anybody here and ask them what they think in our group or me. And you know, I'll certainly happy to give you my 2 cents. But this is good. This is an iterative process. It's something that's going to take some time. And when you get it, it's just gonna, that's it. And you'll know. And, you know, so I congratulate everybody for making this effort. Anyone else want to embarrass themselves thoroughly?
Sure, Dennis.
Go ahead, Joe.
I'll just feel free to hit me over the head with this, but mine is social meat that refines your social life. So this is liquor infused meat, right? So the whole essence is friendship, being social, and it's sort of a quality niche product that creates a little buzz at your party, pun intended. So that was my positioning statement.
My gut reaction is, I don't know what the hell social meat is. You know, that freaked me out a little bit. Like this idea of my meat twittering or hitting Facebook.
Sure.
But I think you're onto something. You're onto the core of, you know, your product. You know, this and I really like on your website, you have something about spirited meat.
It's spirited meat, spirited moments right now. But I think to Paige and I were exchanging opinions. It sounds a little spiritual, and spirited moments aren't, to me, I think of precious moments like the old figurines back in the day or whatever. And it doesn't really come off the tongue as me. So it was originally going to be social food because we're expanding to other foods, but because we only offer meat right now, I was trying to keep it tailored to what we do offer. So do you like social food that refines your social life? Is that
I like
better?
social food better than social meat.
Okay.
I must admit. But I need to think about it. Anybody else want to chime in?
Well, so I was, oh, sorry.
Wait, go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say that, you know, I like that your website has like a character. Can you tell me more about that? And I have a point to all of this, but can you tell, like, Joe, like, I know it's kind of like it's almost like, I feel like there's a whole backstory to the character on your website. What's his name?
Yeah, so
Tell me
Mr.
more about that.
Hughes, Mr. Hughes is our protagonist, family boxer who is quote unquote the most interesting boxer, travels the world making friends, inspiring products based on the relationships that he makes, which is an overlay of my great grandfather and his real life, his true immigration story and all that kind of stuff. So I'm telling my grandfather's story through the lens of our dog. And that's the charming mechanism by which we talk about friendship and community, which our food is the vehicle by which you gather people around and kind of build that community, because it's a food that people want to talk about and, you know, come over because it's interesting, right? So that's sort of the essence behind the vibe.
So I feel like because you have this, like, almost like this character, that it would be really cool to, like, I don't know, have like a really fun, just like poignant phrase, and using the word dog. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, but I could be completely off with this, but I don't know, maybe it's like dogs and I don't this is gonna sound silly, but I guess it's part of brainstorming. What if you did something like brews and dogs, or grab your dogs, grab your brews? I mean, something like that's kind of catchy and fun, because you have this really cool character. And I think that would really almost tie into that, which I could be completely off with that, but that's just like my thought. Having an avatar, I think, gives you that freedom to have something that's like really fun and poignant and maybe make the consumer think, but still using, like your name is Booze Dogs. So I feel like if you could use Booze Dogs in your statement, that could be even really, or booze even. I mean, are you against using booze in there or?
Yeah, I'm trying to not,
Okay.
so I'm trying to be subtle with it, because if I play on the boozy term too heavily, people see it more as an alcoholic product, and then they infer that they're going to get drunk off of it, and then it's not safe for their children, and then there's some client education friction with all that. So I'm trying to let the booze be there in the name, right, like in the brand, but then not play on it too heavily past that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Is there actual booze or just flavoring in the stuff?
No, it's real alcohol, but the alcohol cooks out during the smoking process.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Yeah.
Maybe.
To me, I think you need to have something that says, like, I don't know, the term like ignites your taste buds, like comes to mind. Like it's like liquor infused meats that ignite your taste buds, right? So like I can almost like taste what that is like just reading that phrase or something like that. So it's like, what is the, you know, how is that customer going to feel partaking in your product? You know, if that makes sense.
Maybe like changing the flavor of meat. Like I like ignite. Maybe ignite. I like ignite your taste buds. It's actually really cool. But I get what you're saying. Like I think that would be so cool because technically this is a new concept. I mean, if anyone's ever cooked with alcohol, it does cook out. But I get it. You want to make that known. But I like ignite. I think that's a fun word.
What about Tom, going along that about something about giving your taste buds a buzz or something like that? Or
ooh,
yeah, right?
I like that.
I love that.
I think like people can identify with that. You know, otherwise they're trying to think about what kind of feeling am I going to have? What's it going to taste like? I think you're kind of leading them down that path by saying something of that nature, and I think that's really powerful. I think it gets that emotional connection rolling.
Yeah.
That's good.
You also can think of this sort of thing. Think of it like an ad campaign, right? It doesn't have to be forever and ever and ever. It can be a specific campaign with a start date and an end date, right? It can be, you know, around a certain holiday or a certain event or sports or whatever. So some of this thinking really is next level beyond, you know, just a positioning statement, and really gets into brand messaging and campaigns, which is something we're going to cover. But this is all really good, and it isn't a zero-sum game. It isn't this or nothing, right? It's all of this stuff can be used in different ways. So keep track of it. We had some real emotional reactions to some of the things that were said, right? Ignite your taste buds or whatever. So this is really good. It's an example of how this process works, and you'll be thinking about more stuff even after we're done here today. So this is really good, but think of it in terms of you know, other uses, not just you know, the actual positioning statement. Okay, Danielle, go ahead. Danielle Baker.
Sure. I just wanted to make sure I'm following okay. It almost sounds like the positioning statement is actually more like a tagline. Is that, I mean, that's kind of what I'm hearing. Is that supposed to be more like a tagline or more like the mission?
Well, it can be used as a tagline, but it kind of goes a little bit deeper in that you are positioning your offer in the minds of the consumer.
Yeah. So
right?
like our tagline for my peanut business is from the Baker family farm to you. For my CBD business, it's for the CBD business, it's live healthy, support local. So those are like my taglines, but would those also be considered a positioning statement as well?
I would consider them part of a positioning statement, right? They beg more explanation. What do you mean by support local, right?
Well, that's what that's what I'm trying to figure, because what I've heard in the few minutes that, you know, this afternoon, it sounds, I mean, do you go further than just, you know, 2 or 3 words? I mean, that's kind of what I'm trying to figure.
it really depends on your product and your market, and that's something you can test out, try some different ones. But I think that, you know, keeping in mind what is the consumer getting out of it, and can you communicate that through a positioning statement or a graphic or some other way? Can you communicate that quickly, particularly for people who never heard of you before, right? We're talking about growing our businesses, about expanding to new markets. So by definition, you've got to break through the clutter, right? So, you know, you have to think about each one of those words. What does supporting local have to do with me enjoying the benefits of CPD? I'm just making that up. I don't know. But this is the point, is really your goal is to describe what the consumer gets out of your product in an introductory way, using words and perhaps images.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, Dennis, I'll say, as I was going through the lean canvas, and I realized that product positioning statement wasn't necessarily delineated in lean canvas, but I came up with mine through the process, and I thought about, you know, slogan, tagline versus positioning statement. And I think if our positioning statement is concise enough and worded the right way, it certainly could be the slogan, but it doesn't have to be. So like our general slogan is, you know, live good, feel good, hop good. And it was hop good hemp. And we were also a CBD company. But my positioning statement was trying to communicate, what do we do? So if you say, what do we do? I came up with, we provide healthy remedies to everyday ailments. And that's not super specific to like CBD, but that's broadly what we want to do, and then conversation can go from there. So I was trying to separate slogan, tagline from, okay, what do you actually do? And I think both of them are probably very important, but one tells somebody something about what I do versus the other one is kind of a cool phrase I can associate with my business.
Yeah, the other thing I'm going to encourage everybody, and you all are nice people who naturally do things with humility, but this is a case where humility is not necessary, right? It could be the best remedy for your ailments, right? It doesn't mean it doesn't mean that, you know, somebody on high made that statement and that's true. It doesn't really matter. It's your opinion. And one of the things that you'll see when you look into this from other brands is, don't be afraid to make a claim that you know, you wouldn't want to say in front of a judge with your hand on a Bible, but perhaps it would help you communicate, you know, the best damn herbal remedy in America or something. You know my point I'm trying to make here. Don't be humble on that part, because people like the best. They want the best, especially if they can afford it. So that's a double solution, I guess, is describing your product and what it does, but also giving it some valuation. This is the best, this is the cleanest, this is the newest, whatever. Those kinds of words have a lot of power emotionally. And so you're really not limited by some of those things, because you are allowed to have an opinion, and you are allowed to, you know, if someone says, well, I don't think it's the damn best, and you can say, well, okay, that's fine, but I think it is. You know, what can they say? So I encourage those kinds of words, emotions, biggest, best, you know, all those words are around because that's how they've been used. They've been used to make a delineation between a particular product or service. And I encourage everybody to think about that as well.
Hey, Dennis, can I go back to Andrew real quick and ask him a question about what he was saying?
Of course.
So Andrew, that I struggle with that delineation between a positioning statement versus a tagline, because the tagline is something that we were talking about earlier about, you know, when you guys were opining on what I was saying versus what I can articulate repetitively that sounds natural, which is, what do you do, right? And so it's not as catchy per se, but it's more explainable in understandable terms. So for your business, on your website, let's say, for example, when you have that opening statement, which one do you use? Do you use your tagline approach, which was life is good, something good, hop good, whatever you said, or did you use your more this is what we do statement?
Well, no, that's a great question. At the very top of our website, the first thing you see is that slogan, which is live good, feel good, hop good, you know, shop now. kind of thing. And then some of the other, like the product positioning statement, more of what we do just is a little bit further down currently.
So you are listing both. One's just more at the top and one's more down the page a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do want to point out, if you all don't have Google Analytics or some kind of analytic tool, it's real helpful to know how people are coming to your website and what they're seeing. They may not even see your homepage. I know that sounds crazy, but it is possible that they're coming from product links or other sources. So we tend to think, kind of like, like we read a book or something in order, but a web sometimes is not that way. So I encourage everybody to, to think about that in their messaging. It doesn't mean you should change anything, but just be aware your traffic could be coming from somewhere else. And you also should be aware of, are they coming in mobile? And what does your website look like on mobile? And it's several different mobiles, right? It can be Android and iPhone. But that sort of thing is something we'll cover later. But I did want to point that out. Brady, I think Brady has a few things for us. Is that right, Brady?
Yeah, I just want to take some time. I know we have some newer participants that just recently joined within the past week. We have, some of you guys that have been here for the past, I guess this is week 3. So I just kind of wanted to take some time and go over everything so everyone's on the same page. Because I do feel like some of you might be missing out or not realize on some things. So first off, I really want to highlight the fact, I really like the participation you guys are having amongst each other. So for those of you that have been here, you've kind of heard my background. For those of you that are newer, I've taken a part in several accelerators. I've done Harvard Business School's online's entrepreneurship cohort. I've been a part of Startup Island out of Costa Rica, CEO out of Tampa, and Future Founders out of Chicago. And Future Founders is one of the largest accelerator programs for 18 to 30-year-olds in the US. They're backed by a ton of banks and stuff. So I have a lot of experience with accelerators, and honestly, the best value I've gotten out of them is from my peers. I mean, to this day, every single day, I'm either contacted by or I contact, one of my former peers in one of my accelerators. Whether it's people from my old Harvard cohort or people from Future Founders. I'm closest with my peers from Future Founders. There's about 28 of us. And that was more startup style. A lot of them have gone on to raise several $1 million in funds and stuff. So having those connections 2 years later and still keeping in touch has been huge for me. It's been the biggest value I've gotten. So I just really wanted to highlight and appreciate that fact because realistically, I mean, you can learn everything we teach you on, you could look up YouTube videos and things like that. The real value comes from learning and growing amongst each other and with the mentors. So, I think everyone's off to a great start. But on that note, so we do have a Slack channel, and Slack is what we're using for group communications. If you're not already in our Slack channel, you could access it. Hold on one second. I've got way too many tabs pulled up. I'm sorry. Let me try to clean this up really fast so I could show you how to access it. Okay, let me share this again. So if you're not already in our Slack group, you could just go to our website, accelerateworld.org, click member resources, and then click on the Slack logo here, and it should direct you straight to our Slack page, which is this, and it should automatically let you sign up. If you're not able to sign up, shoot me an email and I will email you an invite to join the group. And let me send my email in the chat room here. How do I? It's not even letting me access the chat room for whatever reason. Oh, there we go. Let me send my email in the chat. Okay, I'll do that later. It's not working right now. But anyway, so with our Slack, I kind of just wanted to walk everyone through our Slack, right? Because if you think about it, we have this FaceTime with each other 1 hour a day, 4 days a week. But there's 24 hours in the day and 7 days in the week. So this is kind of our way to communicate offline. So we have it kind of organized. So when you join, you guys will see majority of these channels, the ones without the locks on them. The one you guys will see participants channel though, whenever you join. So basically within the announcements tab, this is where there's more chat going on here that shouldn't have in the past cohort, but this is where we announce things to everyone. So we have 3 different groups that are on our Slack, right? We have our internal team, we have our mentors, and we have you guys, the participants. So the announcements and all of the channels with the hashtags to the left of them, everyone, all 3 groups can see them, right? With the participants channel, only our internal team and you guys can see this. So this is basically the general channel you guys can chat in without having to worry about blowing up people's notifications like some of our mentors, right? So whenever we make announcements, say class is canceled or something, we'll send it in the announcements tab as well as in the participants channel. And I'll tag you guys too. So you should get a push notification if you download Slack on your phone. Yeah, so this is, feel free to use this as often as you guys want. Slack automatically mutes notifications too for people during off hours. I don't remember the exact hours, but I think it's, basically nighttime when you're sleeping. So even if you send a message at 1 a.m. or something, you're not going to bother everyone and wake them up. And I know how life is being an entrepreneur, and you might have a question at 1 a.m. you want to send out before you forget it. So feel free to use this more often. So we have our general chat, which is again, just general chatting that you're able to do between everyone, including mentors. Daily meeting tab is where I will post a list of all of our past recordings, and you'll be able to access it directly. So when you go on our YouTube channel, all of these recordings are unlisted. So you won't be able to find them on the YouTube channel. The only way you can access them is directly through the links on here. So you could see, I just list the date, I list the topic, and then the direct link to the channel. Again, general chat is just chat between everyone. This one's not really used too often, but if you send something in there, I know one of the mentors that's active on here is Andy. I think he's speaking next week. Media is where we kind of just send anything media-wise. Dennis posts a lot of just interesting articles, things like that might interest you. Off topic is if you wanted to just chat about something off topic, not necessarily about all of this. So for example, one of our past participants, Taylor, was asking if anyone was able to do interviews for one of her studies. Say hi is just, where you could introduce yourself. Anytime I make updates to the Slack channel or the website, I post it in here. So it's constantly improving. For example, whenever I used to make changes to the Slack in the website, people got confused. So I made this new channel. That way everyone was aware that there was updates made. And then worksheets is where Dennis or myself will send, PDFs and worksheets relevant to what we talk about throughout the course. So I really just kind of wanted to highlight, and participants channel again is just between the participants and our internal team. So this is kind of where you guys should go to for your general chat amongst one another. So for example, if you guys had questions about the BMC or wanted to see other examples, you could just fire in a message. Hey, would anybody mind sharing their BMC with me, or this section of their BMC? Or does anybody want to hop on a Zoom call and talk about this segment of the BMC, something like that. Feel free to use that. So I just really wanted to highlight that, since we do have some newer people that may not have been aware of it. So again, you could just access it through the website. You should be able to automatically join by clicking the link. Once I see that you join, I get notifications whenever anybody new joins. I'll add you in the participants group, and that'll unlock this channel for you guys. And yeah, again, if you can't access it directly through the website, I'll send my email in the chat right now. But that's about it. I just really wanted to highlight that aspect because in my opinion, that's something I really wasn't aware of in my first and second accelerator programs. I wasn't too close with a lot of the people, only maybe a handful of them. And I'm still close with those that I was close with, and it's the best value you could get out of it, in my opinion. So I just really wanted to stress that from my point of view, just because, I want you guys to maximize your value, considering I've been in the same shoes and I've been in accelerator programs before. But that's all for me, Dennis.
Thanks, Brady. Appreciate it. The other thing about Slack is, we try to develop more and more resources that you can access, and it is a private thing. It isn't on the open internet. So it is a little more secure than most other platforms.
And one thing I forgot to mention too is they do have the DM. So you have the ability to DM each other or ourselves offline as well. So I've already mentioned this to a few people, but you know, like Dennis said previously, him and I are both more than happy to always kind of answer questions or whatever. If you just want to run an idea by either one of us, you know, you could always shoot us an email, or if it's, you know, if you wanted to keep it less formal and more that chat room style, just shoot us DMs on Slack. And you can DM your peers on Slack as well. It's a good way to connect offline without having to really know everyone's email and get all of those emails bogged up with, I'm sure, the tons of emails you're already receiving every day. So.
Anybody have any questions or thoughts on that? All right, well, I told you we're getting off early, and here I am. It's already past time. So we just have so much fun. We just keep going. So thank you, everybody. Tomorrow we have Andy Golinski, who is a superstar. You're going to love this guy. He's the guy who bought Burt's Bees for Clorox for $1 billion. He's really wants to help entrepreneurs, and he's a mentor, and just one of those guys you just say, man, this is a good human being. So hopefully you all be able to tune in tomorrow for his presentation. And
Dennis, before we get
as
off,
always, if you need anything, yes, sir.
Dennis, before we get off, can we go back to?
Can't hear you.
I got a question on positioning statement. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm sorry, it's breaking up on my end. I don't know if it's me.
Dennis,
or
you hear me?
if
This
it's
is Jamal. You
your
hear me?
internet. I can't hear.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't.
So Dennis, on my question, you know, my platform, my digital video platform is called T-Bosses for trade, buy, or sell safely exchange system. And I guess my slogan or tag for I have for that is be your own boss, BYOB. Now, does that confuse my consumer or intrigue them with the BYOB, knowing what that traditionally stands for, as in bring your own beer? But in my case, for my platform, as in be your own boss, meaning talking to small businesses, because at the end of the day, like that's what we are, is our own boss. So my question is, does that confuse my consumer or makes it more intriguing?
I would ask several, because I may not be the right person to ask. If I were you, I would test that and ask people in your target group, target audience, and get their reaction. You know, my instinct is it's too many initials, but that's just me. I'm old, so don't listen to me. I think that you need to test that, and that's a perfect example of customer discovery. Check it out. Ask people in this group. You can use the Slack channel as Brady just talked about. Get out and talk to people. They say get out of the room, get out of the office, and go ask people. And you'll sharpen up what you're saying so that people get what you're saying. And so that would be my advice. Anyone else want to tune in?
Yeah. From my perspective, you know, definitely ask, you know, customers, your peers, things like that. But in my opinion, so if I were to see just BYOB and I wasn't familiar with your company or anything, obviously I would think it's something like bring your own beer, right? But if I was already familiar with your company and I already knew that was kind of your tagline, then it might make sense to me. So alternatively, if I were to see, you know, and this, say I'm a customer and it's my first exposure to you, right? If I were to see, you know, BYOB, you know, with like dots between it, and then underneath it says like, be your own boss or something, that would really stand out to me. I personally don't think that's too long. But again, it really just depends on, and this is why you should survey your customers, because it really just depends person to person. Because if it's their first exposure to you and they just see BYOB, they're obviously not going to get it. But if they see BYOB and then they see it written out underneath it, you know, like if you have B.Y.O.B and then like be your own boss or something like that, and it's like a little header or something, you know, that really wouldn't confuse me then, because obviously it's, you know, I know BYOB means be your own boss. So it really just depends on the customer, which is why it's important to survey them.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, everybody. That's a wrap. See you tomorrow.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you all tomorrow.
Bye.